federal, and public sector space. The BlackHawk Data team is well positioned to work with all customers, big or small, and offer the same level of a large partner with the high touch of a small partner. Customers realize quickly they're getting the best of both worlds. Maryann attended Berkeley for business and Dowling College for business administration. Please welcome Maryann Pagano.
Hi, everyone.
It's the ShelterPoint Life Insurance. Founded in 1972, ShelterPoint has grown into New York's largest carrier of statutory short-term disability and an approved private plan carrier for New Jersey state disability since 2003. Most recently, they began providing Massachusetts paid family and medical leave starting in 2021. As a result of more than 184,000 New York employers with 1.9 million employees trust ShelterPoint to help them strike the right balance between compliance, coverage, and cost to complete their benefit equation. Their dedication to state-mandated insurance is what allowed us to stand up, New York paid family leave so quickly, smoothly, and successfully when it became required in New York effective 2018, which further solidified the market leadership in New York. Simon, who happens to be a very good friend of mine, I've known for a long, long time, has been in the insurance industry, I should say, for 35 years with experience in claims underwriting and agency operations in both on property and casualty, life, health sector. For the past 12 years, he has served as the Director of Business Development for ShelterPoint Life Insurance Company based in Garden City. During his tenure, he has helped to grow ShelterPoint to become the market share leader in New York for mandatory employer purchase disability and paid family leave. He holds several insurance licenses and has attained a chartered property and casualty underwriter and associate in risk management designation. He resides with his wife Donna in Port Washington. So everybody, please welcome Simon Klarides.
Thank you, everybody.
Long Island Alzheimer's and Dementia. The Long Island Alzheimer's and Dementia Center is a grassroots non-for-profit organization founded in 1988 by 5 Long Island women. Each of these women had a connection with dementia and wanted to create a place where people could turn to for much needed help and service. The organization initially started as a resource center, providing a comprehensive resource directory of local care facilities and professionals and social model adult day services. Since then, their services have expanded and serve all forms of dementia and are helping at every stage of the disease. In October 2019, they changed their name to the Long Island Alzheimer's and Dementia Center to reflect the wide range of programs and services that the center offers to families affected by Alzheimer's disease and related forms of dementia. Tori has been the executive director of Long Island Alzheimer's and Dementia Center since 2015. However, her history with the organization goes back to 2003, when she began as a social worker with the organization, then called Long Island Alzheimer's Foundation. Tori is a zealous advocate for Long Island LAD Center, pushing the organization to step to the forefront of community and professional education about impairment. She is a sought-after thought leader on the issues affecting those with memory loss and has been interviewed by numerous publications and broadcasts, including WBAB, Newsday, and the Long Island Business News. Tori received her master's degree in social work from Simmons College and bachelor's degree from Syracuse University. Everybody, please welcome Tori Cohen.
Thank you very much.
Yay! Thank you all for being part of this. I really appreciate it. It's an additional event that we have added to our already robust virtual platform of events. All previous events, just so everybody knows, can be viewed on our website if you go to longislandassociation.org. We always post them there, so in case anybody does not have the opportunity to join us for the actual live event, you can always go back to view it at a later date. So the topic of today's event is called Business Today, and I will be asking questions relative to how each of your respective businesses navigated through the current pandemic. You'll have a couple of minutes to answer each of those questions asked. We will also open this up to general questions and answers from those in attendance, and we'll leave that for after the event is completed. So with that being said, let's get started. First question, and we will have Maryann lead off with the answer. 2020 brought challenges to all of us. So talk to us of how your business has been impacted by the current pandemic. We'll start off with Maryann.
So thanks again for having me. For 2020, so being a new business, right? I've been in the business 20 years, but for the business itself being new, I think 2020 was definitely a challenge, right? Because you're so used to selling and being in front of people and making that personal contact and, you know, getting the engineers to go on site. I think the hardest part for us for 2020 was basically that, right? That personal contact and being able to readjust the way you do business. For 20 years, when I worked for big business, right, we did business a certain way, and then we turned into a small business, a woman-owned small business out on Long Island, and now you have to turn around and readjust the way you do it. For 2020, from a revenue perspective, we did just fine. We had to shift the way we sell, to shift the way you go to market. We have to shift how you sell and what you sell. Long gone was the on-site installation services of, you know, putting in big route switch infrastructure because there wasn't anybody on site. So you had to really adjust quickly. And as a new CEO, that was pretty difficult to do because now I'm adjusting to being a CEO, running a company, trying to expand a business and keep things afloat. So we had to adjust what we sold. So we sold more remote services. We sold more virtual security, cyber security, you know, different things that we can do to help customers remotely. You know, we offered free services for customers that needed it, whether they wanted them to look at their network and make sure that they were safe and secure from hacking. So we had to do a lot of different things. We had to look at our engineering team and say, okay, you can't go on site and be a billable resource. So how do I take you and make you an effective resource during a lockdown? So what we do is we turn them to training, career development, certifications, you know, building brand awareness with the vendors and getting them to know the team as a whole. So from a direction perspective, I think revenue-wise, we actually did well, right? We doubled revenue in 2020, which was astonishing for me. It was being able to take the team and keep them motivated, right? Doing WebExes, doing visual, having the IP phones. Obviously, we were already ready to go virtual because we are in technology, but it was being able to stay connected and keep people motivated and not scared to lose their job. So that was really the challenges of the pandemic for us, is keeping people that came and quit other jobs working for big business, coming to a small business, and now the world melted to the ground, right? So how do you assure them that you've got their back, right? You do QBRs, you call them more often, you spend more time with them, you keep them connected to what's going on, you let them know what the wins are, what direction from a marketing perspective that you're going to. You have to keep people more connected to you and the business than you ever did before. Normally they're out in the field, they're running around, they're doing their thing, and you connect with them every once in a while. You know, during the first 3 to 6 months, we had to make sure that people knew that we were all going to be okay, that we had their back, that we had the right direction, we made the right choices to stay alive. You know, being an essential business, we can still do stuff, we can still go out in the field and help. We do a lot of public sector work, so we can definitely go out there and help the airports, the rails, the tunnels and bridges, so we can still do stuff when we had to. So they can still go out, just not as much. And then, again, 2020, not a bad year. It's just when you're getting ready to start a business and you've been in business 2.5 years at that point, you have to rebuild your whole self from scratch in the drop of a dime, right? To stay in business and keep everybody employed, you're basically rebuilding everything you thought you were going to do from scratch. And that was our biggest challenge, I think.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I just want to see, can everybody hear me okay?
Better.
You hear me better?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. Thank you. Because there was an issue I had with my microphone, so I just wanted to make sure that everybody could hear me okay. Thank you so much. Tori, can you answer the question as well, please?
Hi. I just wanted to say thank you, Dave, for having me on the panel today in the LIA, and also my fellow panelists for all their work in the community, especially during this really challenging time. So for our organization, 2020 was a really big challenge, specifically because as a nonprofit organization that has day programs, in-home respite programs, all of our programs and services were are hands-on. So when the Day Center was closed down March 19th of 2020, we really had to transition quickly to remote and to virtual. And the biggest challenge for us wasn't really our staff getting to that point. It's with our population, since we have a very vulnerable population, families taking care of them. And it was a really hard challenge to get people to go on virtually with our programs and services. We had to be very innovative. We've always been an innovative team, but we really had to change our ways to be able to accommodate our population. I feel, one of our biggest challenges was economically with our revenue streams, which we have from, various places, being events which had to go virtual, being our programs which people, pay for, which it's very hard to have people pay for a lot of virtual programs when you can get it in a lot of different places. So we really had to be creative in our thinking. And one thing that we really took as this chaos, and we used some opportunities, that we partnered with a lot of new businesses and other community organizations to work on programs together to try to get different sponsorships with them on some of our programs and bring in revenue that way. I think about what Maryann had said about having people's back. I mean, for us, again, as a nonprofit, a lot of our donors that give us a lot of support, there was a lot of people that were hit very hard with this pandemic, and then there were some that weren't hit as hard. But if we continue to do what we're doing and show them that we're here for the Long Island families and the Long Island families with dementia, that eventually things can come back and they will continue to support us when they're able to. So really economically and emotionally, obviously, for our families who did not get respite for this period of time as much as they had been getting when they were getting our in-person programs.
Thank you, Tori. Really appreciate that. And just so everybody knows, from a panelist perspective, the views that we will be getting are coming from, 3 different company types. One is being a very large company in ShelterPoint, one being a small company in BlackHawk Data, and one being from a non-for-profit Long Island Alzheimer's and Dementia. So the perspective is really good when you have the opportunity to hear it when it comes from 3 different types of businesses like we have today. So Simon, give us your point of view on the challenges that ShelterPoint endured during the impact of the pandemic.
Sure. Thanks, Dave. And thanks, Matt. Thanks, Kristen. Just wanted to start off by saying thank you for inviting me. And also thank you for the programs that you continue to have when Kevin was on board as well. Just through the shutdown with, starting from how the PPP is going to affect small business and right on through all the different recovery programs. It was actually a ray of light to jump on these calls and see that business was still ongoing during the shutdown. And I wanted to thank you for that, because that was, I think that was a big lift for our local community and the LIA in general. So thank you for that. So ShelterPoint, as an admitted insurance company in New York State, we had to have a disaster plan on file with the state, and that's an ongoing practice. Nobody anticipated that we would have to have, a full remote workforce in a drop of a dime. And that's really what happened. And talking to my COO before the call, he said, look, we operated on 2 real primary platforms. One is safety and effectiveness of our employees, and also delivering our promises to our broker network and policyholders. And that's really what we're all about. As an insurance company, it's a promise to pay. So going back to the safety of the employees, IT, again, through their resources, we're able to deploy people, to get back remote at home workforce and capabilities. 85%, actually 95% of our workforce was fully functional within 2 weeks of the shutdown. And that's hats off to our support team and getting people up and running with laptops and systems access and Jabber and things of that nature, where now that's commonplace. But in the past, some people had remote activity. Most people did not in our company. So, and then delivering the promises to our employees, to our policyholders, really, we distribute through insurance agents and brokers from Rochester out to Riverhead. And that's where all our client base is throughout New York State through that network. And we had brokers that were relying on us for support and content. And we had policyholders and people on disability claims that needed their checks to support their family. This is pre-PPP. The additional monkey wrench that was thrown to us was that the governor signed in a COVID extension where we were now asked to pay claims for people on disability with COVID, where in the past that would not be a covered condition. So in addition to that, we had to pay more claims, change our back office claims processing to allow for the payment of those claims. And to further compound the mess, we are a head count business. So whether you have 10 employees or 1,000 employees, when we send out our premium report, we ask you to count the number of people that have worked for you in the past month or quarter. Well, as people were furloughed, that number dropped. So in addition to paying more claims, our revenue dropped. And of course, the question was how significant was the rise in claims versus the drop in revenue? And at the end of the day, yes, it didn't work out. 2020 didn't work out the way we had planned going in because we just made a major acquisition and we were all excited about it. But at the end of the day, I think we survived. We paid our claims. We delivered to the promises to our brokers and policyholders, and our employees are all employed. And actually, in fact, we have grown. We've hired through the pandemic and have grown and launched into, as Dave mentioned, we've launched into Massachusetts, which is a new territory for us. Without setting foot there. So that's, I think, an accomplishment. So we found ways to grow and thrive despite having some setbacks.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Simon. Really appreciate that. And thank you for the kind words regarding the LIA and all the events in which we continue to host and what we've hosted in the past. It's very nice to hear those words coming from you. So I greatly appreciate it. So does Matt. So does our chairman, Larry Waldman. We greatly appreciate that. Thank you so much. Moving on to the next question. Simon touched on it a little bit regarding, working remotely. So like most of us, we're all currently working remotely. So talk to me a little bit about how you've adapted to that philosophy. And do you see that changing as things begin to open up? Maryann, let's start with you.
Okay, hi. So again, I think 2020, from a seasoned veteran's perspective, right, personally, and some of the salespeople that I have, right, we had to change everything about how we sold, right? We're used to being in front of people. People get a great feeling of that personal contact. They feel your core values. They feel your sincerity. So again, I'm growing a new business, right, 2.5 years into it. So I now have to be able to get that same feeling across to people, in a Zoom meeting, in a WebEx, in a go-to meeting, and try to make sure people hear me and understand what we're saying. And from a sales perspective, the salespeople now have to do the same, right? We're used to sitting in a meeting, handing out business cards, shaking hands, really being in front of people, doing whiteboarding sessions, right? When we look at network designs, right, our guys come in with us and we get up on the whiteboard and we do designs and we map things out. All that sales cycle changes. And the only way businesses grow, and it's every business, right, is by sales, right, and networking with people and making new contacts, right? That whole world changed. Now you have to figure out how to achieve that same level of connection to people, whether it's vendors that you're working with that help grow your business, whether it's customers or prospects, people that you're trying to grow your business with. You don't have to get that same point across to them. So I think that we had to do that. Everyone had to change their methodology. We had to learn to use whiteboards on WebExes. We had to learn to be able to talk designs to a level where you're doing it now on a screen and you're not doing it in a conference room full of people where you can't walk around someone's data center or around their campus and see physically what they have and give them recommendations. You have to go by what during that conversation. While remote or hybrid will probably be the wave of the future, for us, we're looking back to the moments where you can go on site, you can see a customer in person, you can go visit with people. I I'm old school. I like the fact that I get to see people in person, right? You know, virtual's great. However, get me out of my house. I just want to be able to see people and talk to them. I want to go to lunch with a client. I want to be able to make that personal connection. And not everybody wants to be on video, right? You get on phone with clients and they don't want to be on video. So you don't go on unless they're on, right? And a lot of them don't want to get on. You know, so I'm looking forward to the ability. Listen, I still go back to the city all the time. I'm still in New Jersey all the time. So I'm out all the time. It's who wants to see you. And I think it's going to be a little bit before people get comfortable seeing people. But I'm looking forward to the time when I pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm in the city today. You want to do lunch? Like, heck yeah, let's get out. And that's what I'm looking forward to, is that back to that personal connection, that time that you can touch and feel people, so to speak.
Yeah, I completely agree. I am in the same mindset, and our acting president, Matt Cohen, has actually implemented, along with our CFO, Michelle Byrne, have implemented a plan for us to go back in a hybrid format. I mean, as you can see from my background, I'm still operating, at least today, out of my bedroom, but my co-pilot, Kristen Kelly, is in the office today. So we're going to try a hybrid plan where 2 days a week, each of us will be in the office accordingly for the next several weeks, until I guess everybody starts to feel a little bit more comfortable and it starts to open up a little bit. But I am excited to get back to work. I, as one, need a little bit of structure. I enjoy to, take my shower, get dressed, as opposed to, putting on a pair of sweatpants and maybe a nice shirt where nobody sees. I like to get in my car. I like to drive to work. I like to get into the office. I like to sit at my desk. There's just things that I enjoy to do, and having the availability to do that. Like, I probably won't get any sleep tonight because I'm due to go into the office tomorrow, and I'll just be that much excited tonight. Like, tomorrow's going to be Christmas for me. So, I am excited. I'm happy to go into work and to see my colleagues and continue to push forward. So Tori, why don't you take it now and tell us a little bit about how your organization is handling the current work remotely, and do you see you and your colleagues going back into the office in a hybrid scenario, full-time? Tell us a little bit about how you guys see it.
Well, for us, I'm excited to share after almost 13 months that we will be reopening our center next Monday. And we are going to be having some staff that are home and some staff that are obviously at the center, accommodating our participants that will be coming in. So we're going to do a little bit of both at this point in time, because we still can't have a lot of people in the center. It's only supposed to be like a 40% occupancy. So we're going to be working from that direction. But I think going forward, I think we are going to continue to have people, if they need to be working remote and in the center, because with our type of population and their families, if someone's sick, aren't able to come in, that we'll still be able to utilize our services virtually with them. So we won't lose contact, because it's really important to have continuity with this population. And I think with staff, I mean, I'm really impressed that when we had never been virtual before, that the communication that went on virtually with staff meetings, that before we're all running around going one direction, that we really kind of stood ground and said, this is the day that we're all meeting, and we really got to communicate better with each other, which I think then internally created more innovative thinking for us, instead of just the way that we were conducting business. So for us, I think going forward also, we have been able to reach more people. We're a Long Island based nonprofit, mostly serving Nassau, parts of Queens and parts of Suffolk, but now we've been able to reach people all around the United States just hearing about our services. So if we can offer some other programs for them, then we'll be able to get more people aware of us, more people involved in that, and hopefully in the future will bring us more economic support.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Simon, how is ShelterPoint going to be handling this moving forward?
So I'll touch on it in a couple ways. Again, as an insurance company in New York State, we're required to send out certain documents whenever there's a point in time where, maybe there's a cancellation warning or a reinstatement notice or notice to a policyholder or some communication. So traditionally, our mail center would send out these notices and batch mail them to the broker on the policies to distribute to his client. If you deal with your insurance broker and have commercial policy, you know what I'm talking about, okay? It's very paper intensive. Well, we found out real quickly that when we send out these notices to our broker's office, they weren't receiving them because, hello, they weren't at the office. So we had to quickly adapt our back office to scan these documents and get them in an order and distribute them to our brokers. So in a way, it's actually coming out of this, it's going to make us work a little bit more efficiently, save a few trees, and become a little bit more forward thinking, I guess, if you will, than just printing and mailing, which is what the traditional approach was. So it actually helped us become a little bit better engaged and deliver a little bit better service to our brokers in a manner that they could use it as opposed to them receiving an envelope of paper. Also, in a traditional manner, we have 8 full-time sales reps that work in my department, and they go out and they traditionally knock on brokers' doors. I mean, they'll cover different territories throughout New York State and have face-to-face relationships with those brokers as they drop in on them. And we ask that they see 8 to 10 brokers a day. It could be a meeting, it could be a drop by, it could be a lunch. That obviously had to stop. And, glad to say that our 8 full-time sales reps are still fully engaged remotely. They still have their contacts with their brokers, but it actually allowed them to become a little bit more efficient too. They could actually reach out and try and call somebody that we didn't do business with, or stretch a little bit because they had that capability from a remote standpoint to do that. Whereas, if it's the end of the day, you have to go cross town to see a new prospect. All right, at the end of the day, I'll get them next week, right? That's really the mentality. Whereas, in today's world, it's a little bit easier to reach out to somebody and try and open up that new line of production. So, and for me personally, I found, I thought working from home was going to be, a slam dunk. My wife's been working from home for 10 years and I see what she goes through. But I tell you what, it's been a challenge because I find my days start earlier and end later. So it's a longer span. And actually my clients expect me to be available in that time frame too, because they know I'm home. They know I have my cell phone. They know I have my laptop. So like, well, okay, we know he's home and we know we could reach him. So they're not bashful. They'll reach out at any time and expect that I'm available. So I have to learn how to set up some boundaries too, and when to unplug and when to be available. So still working through that a little bit. I want to be available, but it's also, you want to do what's right for yourself as well too. So trying to strike that right balance.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Okay, so let's move on to the next question, which is basically in regards to the economy. So as our economy starts the reopen process, what are the key changes you feel will be necessary to succeed? Maryann, I'll give it to you first. You have to unmute.
Okay, good. I thought you were unmuting me.
Sorry.
I think again, from a new company perspective, right? We come from a different angle where sales is really the driver for growth, both people-wise and revenue-wise. So we have to understand that as the economy does reopen, people aren't going to toss all their money at IT, right? We usually are last, right? So we have to find creative ways to sell ourselves, our services, our offerings, our products to save companies money. Right, and truly, part of our core values is that, right? We're not looking to, always break everybody over the coals. I mean, we started a business so that we can be a partner and align with customers and sell them what's right for them, right? Not oversell them. But we have to understand as companies start to open, they're not going to have an influx of money to spend, right? They're going to be cautious of where they put their money. You hear things about the CARES Act and stuff like that. All that stuff is great, but it doesn't go to my segment of the world, right? IT does not come first. We get a little portion of that, most of the time. So we have to find creative ways to do things for customers to get net new logos, new customers onboarded, without having to close those $1 million deals anymore, because those are not going to happen for a while. So we have to readjust how we go to market, how we brand, how we sell, and what we're telling customers, and how we're going to bring new customers on without causing them a lot of money financially.
Okay, great. Tori?
I think our biggest key is going to be that we're always knowing that the elder population, we have been wanting people to age in the community and age in place. And one thing I think this pandemic has shown some families, like unfortunately, without knowing that this was going to happen, that look, like it was a year that they were in their house, their loved one was isolated, and they couldn't get out and even bring aides into the home, bring other support into the home. And one thing that's happened a lot and happened to many people that were coming to our center is that their loved one progressed, and then they ended up having to place them in a facility, which is a very good plan and something that a lot of families may need to do. But for us, you know, we always talk about our day program as a good alternative when people are home. And so now we have to like think of many other ways to try and push people that our day programs, our in-home programs are, you know, crucial, and that we can, you know, help them get through these very difficult times and be available to them. So I think this is, you know, important time for us, because we don't know, something like this could happen again. And, you know, like I say, that our core programs are, you know, hands-on, and we need to make sure that this is going to work in another challenging time, like a pandemic again.
Thank you. Thank you. Simon?
So the most immediate breakthrough as we come out is for us anyway, as people start to enter the workforce again. Of course, that's going to help us from, you know, a revenue and maybe recoup some of those lost revenues from last year. But it's not just about that. It's about, you know, the company, and we like to say at ShelterPoint that, you know, we made the best of the worst, and we really were in a situation where it could have really decimated the company, because we were asked to pay additional claims that were unexpected. Our revenues dropped. People were wondering, am I going to have a job? And our CEO was very out in front of this, you know, got out, had his weekly fireside chats, if you will, with all our employees to assure them that they're going to be employed. Everything is fine. We'll get through it. And really, with his leadership, we're able to, Rich White's leadership, we're able to kind of grow through that and endure really what happened. And, you know, I'm a believer that change is good, because, you know, you can kind of learn and you grow, and it gets you out of your comfort zone. And I think through that, we've developed some better business practices. We're getting smarter. And I'm optimistic that coming out of this, we're going to be that much leaner and that much meaner as a company, and do things right, and be that much more responsive to our broker and policyholder base. So I'm really looking forward to it. It's actually a new beginning, if you will.
Yeah, I find a lot of optimism moving forward. Again, I mentioned it earlier, how excited I am. You know, the light is at the end of the tunnel. I don't think there's anything that we haven't been able to overcome as individuals, from a regional perspective to a national perspective. I think this is just all good stuff. Reopening, moving forward, vaccinations, just getting through this. We've got through so many other types of pandemic type scenarios in the past, and we're all going to get through this. I'm extremely optimistic about it. So continuing on with the reopening process from a community involvement perspective, are there any kind of plans from each of your businesses to get involved more in a community aspect, with the availability of, you know, social distancing, CDC guidelines, being outdoors, spring, summer right around the corner. Can we talk a little bit about that, Maryann?
So it's something that's been on my mind for a while. I think I get asked that question a lot. As a woman-owned business, when I get on calls with large customers, one of the things they ask about is you as a person, right? They're not really asking about the company. They're asking about you. What do you think about certain things? How do you give back, right? Everyone's looking for, how is the woman giving back to being where she is today, right? And I think today what we do is I do different peer support groups now, right? So for me personally, I spend a lot of time on Women of the Channel, which is a very big organization in the IT world, right? I'm one of their Power 40. So to give back to being one of those, I do a lot of mentorships with other women who want to be, break the glass ceiling for women, right? I do the Small Business Administration. I spend time on their peer support group giving back. So I spend a lot of time doing that, but I think as an organization, even though we're still small and we're still growing, I think we have a lot to be thankful for. I think we have reasons to want to give back. So I don't have exact plans laid out, but it's in my mind and different people that I've talked to about being able to give back. So I think it's something that we need to do, whether it's people's time, right, with social distancing issues, or it's taking, we have a lot of clients who are not-for-profit, giving back to them, and we donate to some of their events. So doing things like that, but giving back is something that I still feel is super important for me, both the fact that I've been a Long Islander my entire life and I've lived in New York in a 1 mile radius, for the last whatever years. So I think it's important to give back in a lot of ways, and I want the employees to find different ways to give back. A lot of our vendors have programs, whether it's Habitat for Humanity, autism awareness. There's a lot of things I want to see us start to do. As the world starts to open up, there's definitely a path that I would like to take in being able to give back.
Excellent, thank you. Tori, so the LIA, similar to your organization, is a non-for-profit organization. So we kind of thrive on community involvement. We are always in the forefront of trying to continually be involved, getting out there. Talk to us a little bit about the type of events in which you held, I guess, pre-COVID, and are there any plans on any specific type of events moving forward?
Yes, definitely. I mean, the fact is that just talking special events like signature events that we had done one virtual and a golf event that had been held outdoors. But one thing that we are trying moving forward is we have an upcoming luncheon on June 4th, which we're going to be doing outside, but we're also going to be live streaming for people that would like to attend from home if they're not ready to come out. So it's a venue that we've never used before that will be outdoors. So with special events, we're working towards that, which will hopefully bring revenue in, because last year our event was completely canceled. Another thing too, with the community is also with businesses. I mean, I appreciate hearing Maryann say about her company and giving back to and her employees, giving back to different nonprofits and different diseases and things that are very meaningful for people and that need support. Because one thing that I feel like we have been doing virtually is really trying to connect with businesses for that reason, having their employees possibly volunteer with us, which will be a challenge, because usually we would say, come into our center and come see what's going on and really get that vision. And right at this point, we have to be very mindful about who's coming in. But the connection with businesses is something that we're working on. And also connections. One thing that we had spent time working on during this pandemic is with the community and legislators, and being able to educate legislators and their constituents in their area about our program. So really trying to get involved that way in different Rotary groups, just really being accessible instead of the in-person, like we say, is the best, but being able to connect with people and spreading what our programs and services are to many more organizations that we didn't know, as Rotaries and other things like that. So I think that we're really trying to be mindful about touching every bit in the community. So, and being able to, like we say, at the end, hopefully gain revenue from all of those different sources.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Simon?
Sure. So traditionally, we go on a lot of road shows, and there are a lot of broker shows, trade conferences. We were working with the SHRM, Society of Human Resources in New York State, when paid leave came out. So there were a lot of in-person events for us to attend. Obviously, those all came to a halt. We've had a couple of virtual events, but the light at the end of the tunnel for us is that that some of these events will be scheduled in the fall. They'll be optional, they'll be live optional from what we're told. So you can attend virtually or in person. We would like to attend in person. We've also been invited to a few functions in Massachusetts. As I mentioned, we launched in Massachusetts we went live with a new paid family leave law this past January. So again, having not set foot in the state of Massachusetts, we were able to launch successfully, and now some of our network is inviting us over. So we're actually looking forward to those live events whenever we can, whenever the time allows and the conditions allow. Locally, our human resource director, every year we have a committee. We select 3 charities. We try and keep 1 to 2 of them local charities, another one on a national level, where we will do different fundraisers, within the office, bake sales, things of that nature, contests to raise funds and awareness for these local charities, clothing drives, coloring book drives, things like that. Obviously, those things have stopped, but again, there's going to be a quick engagement back once we have some folks back in the office again. It's a little tough. We tried to do some things virtually. It didn't really work out. But again, that's something that I think as a company, we're pretty good at having different events throughout the year and fundraisers within our company, and then giving back to selected charities and causes.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We had a couple of pretty big virtual events last year. Our fall luncheon, which featured Alex Rodriguez as our featured speaker, as well as our annual gala event. And it was successful. It was very successful. It works. However, again, we would prefer to have these types of events in a live format, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to do something relative to a fall luncheon as we get through this year and learn a little bit more about the reopening process. So time will tell. I have one more question that I'd like to ask everybody, but I would also like to ask anybody who is in attendance if they like to ask any questions specifically for our panel to please post those questions in the chat section accordingly. As normal, we like to wrap up these types of events within 1 hour time frame. So we're just about 10 minutes away. So for the last question, I'd like to ask everybody, as members of the LIA, you have all been strong supporters of our programming. How has membership within the LIA been good for you as individuals, as well as your respected businesses? Maryann, we'll start with you.
So I was invited to the LIA by previously President Kevin Law, who I've known for a while. And I think it was great for me because, again, I'm a new business, right? People know me, but they don't know the company name. So I think, kind of aligning with Kevin and the LIA gave me a lot of opportunity to meet a lot of people, to expand my network, to expand my branding. It's all about exposure, right? So the LIA brings that to you. And again, in person, much better because you get to do break-offs, right? You get to speak to people individually. Tori and I can have a specific conversation about different things we're trying to do and how we can help each other. I think you lose that in the virtual world. But I think during the year that we had in-person events, I got to meet a lot of people. And really, people got to hear about me and who we are and the story behind BlackHawk Data, right? Because there's a whole story behind it. So I think that was great because people got to know who you were, so that when you met somebody, right, and you traded business cards, so now when you're calling on that customer, you're like, so I met so-and-so at, so you have that connection. So that kind of brought that full circle and gave you the ability to use that moment to try to help push yourself and forge that sail forward. So that's how it helped me.
Thanks, Maryann. Tori?
Yes, I really appreciated the connection with LIA, especially last year was our first year joining, and we had been wanting to join for a while, and the in-person events and really interfacing with a lot of different businesses that we had never seen before, and really making people aware of what we do. I mean, it was super important. And I also think from a lot of the webinars and presentations that I really gained a lot of good information that could help our organization in reaching out to certain businesses and what's really going on in Long Island. And I think you guys do a very good job of that. So, you know, I'm really excited about continuing with the LIA and really getting to know more people, and just even, you know, on a Zoom, if like we say, we all want to be in person, networking is the key that brings everybody, you know, together. I just, you know, I can look and see all these different names today, and it's, you know, you kind of like, oh, I wonder who, you know, I wonder who they are, and you know, and should we connect? So I really appreciate all that you guys do.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And for everybody who is in attendance, if you would like to learn more about any of the panelists here, their organization, them as individuals, you can reach out to me directly at Dave Fatizo at longislandassociation.org. I will be more than happy to provide you with their contact information. So please reach out to me if there is an interest. Simon, it's up to you, my friend.
Sure. Okay, I'll wrap it up, I guess, huh? So look, Dave, we've known each other for a long time. When you asked me to join the LIA roughly 5+ years ago, I was excited to be part of the LIA. You know, I've attended many of the functions and seen politicians, sports figures, you know, and that's great on the big stage. But what's great about the LIA is the grassroots, which meetings like this, going to a networking meeting, having a cup of coffee, and having been in networking groups before, nobody's there to sell you on anything. You're there to talk. You're there to share ideas. You're there to make contacts. And that's what I love about the LIA. The content that you distribute, the newsletters, the economic snapshots, I mean, these are all spot on and help me give direction to where, you know, hey, where is the action? Where are things headed? Because again, as a company that's selling mandated coverage to all businesses, I mean, this is kind of helping me too. So it helps me in my professional life, but also, you know, just from a citizen of Long Island, knowing what's in store for, you know, the waste crisis or a light rail system in our communities. These are all important topics, and I think the LA does such a great job in balancing large and small, and bringing people of all different backgrounds together, and really, I like to call it, for lack of a better term, Long Island's Chamber of Commerce, and you guys do a fantastic job. So hats off, and continue the great work.
Excellent. Thanks so much. So I'd like to open it up to questions. If anybody in attendance has any questions to ask. So we'll give a quick second to see if that happens. In the meantime, while we're waiting for that, I would just like to say that I think this was a great way to kick off this new series. I want to say that on behalf of our acting president, Matt Cohen, along with our board chairman, Larry Waldman, that we thank all the panelists and all of those who are in attendance for joining today. Please don't forget, we have an Energy and Environment Committee meeting that is scheduled for April 29th, which will feature newly appointed President and CEO of NYSERDA, Doreen Harris. So to register, head over to our calendar of events page on our website, longislandassociation.org, and you'll be able to register there. And always check out that calendar of events, because we're always posting. We're constantly working hard to try to get some additional events up on this schedule. And it doesn't look like we have any questions that the attendees are looking to But again, if anybody wants to reach out to me directly with any kind of questions or contact information for any of the panelists here, please reach out to me. I know Kristen had posted in the chat my email address because I probably blabbled it, or my last name is just too friggin' long. So again, panelists, thank you so much. It is really greatly appreciated by all of us. Thank you for everybody who was in attendance, and look forward to seeing you all again very, very soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
All right, guys.
everybody.